Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.
Brian Giles of Marshfield is a Democratic candidate in the 69th Assembly District. The election is November 3. Brian, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Well, thanks for having me today, Steve.
Well, I think you're a first-time candidate. Why don't you tell me what you consider your top one or two issues, please?
Well, to be honest, with the situation we're in with the pandemic, it's really become the health and well-being of the people of this district, and thus the ability to have mail-in voting, whether it's receiving an absentee ballot and mailing it back in, or returning it to a drop box or to their local clerk's office, has become a real key issue for me. I believe that's one of the best ways to keep people safe in this pandemic, is to be able to give them that right to vote by mail or vote in person if they so choose. But I think we need that option, especially in the time we're in. So that's really a big issue for me.
Okay. Do you support the governor's extension of the face mask statewide order until November 21?
Yes, I believe it's extremely important. The scientists have overwhelmingly said use of face masks by everyone will cut the transmission of the pandemic, will get us back economically, will get us back health-wise. And I think, based on the real surge we're seeing right now, it's even more utmost important that everyone should be following that. I've been kind of disappointed by the Wisconsin GOP's response. I feel if they would have got on board right away, we could have stopped this spread that's really magnifying right now. I'm disappointed to see a lot of their public events, no masks being worn, no social distancing. And I think it kind of gives the idea to other Republicans that, that it's okay to do this. And we're never going to get over this. We're never going to get over the hump. We're never going to get the economy back where it needs to be. We're never going to get kids back in school in person instead of all the virtual until we really work on this.
We're seeing, unfortunately, recently a record number of hospitalizations for COVID-19 in Wisconsin. If you're elected and voting on the next state budget, do you think hospitals deserve a greater priority than they may have in the current state budget?
I think by far they do. You can see that. I know for sure in Green Bay, some of the hospitals right now are in their COVID units, are hitting capacity, in danger of going over capacity. I know in Marathon County, which is in part of our district here, we've run into hospitals having that same problem. So I think it's really shown that we do need to get more funding to our hospitals to really prepare for a second wave if there is one. I mean, hopefully there's not, but I think it's pretty obvious. Everyone said that it's a real possibility. So definitely we need more funding for our hospitals, and we'll definitely vote on that if I'm elected.
3 weeks ago, there was a bill introduced in the legislature that said that charities, businesses, other organizations, if they've complied with COVID-19 protocols, they could not be sued over COVID. Is that a bill you could vote for if you were in the assembly?
I believe you're talking about no frivolous lawsuits against. I don't believe there should be any frivolous lawsuits on any factor, but especially this. But the big caveat is if they're following these protocols, and I see often. That's not the case. And part of the problem is there's really no good way that I've seen so far of really policing that. That's the major caveat. They have to be following. They have to mandate everyone, is wearing face masks, including employees, which I still see businesses that aren't following that. So that would be a major caveat of my agreement to the no frivolous lawsuits.
If the pandemic cut state tax collections by, I'll make up a number, $1 billion, how would you, if you're looking at funding the next state services, how would you make up that shortfall? Would you cut spending, or would you consider raising taxes or fees or something else?
Our district is one of the higher tax property tax areas. So it's definitely, I would definitely try to avoid raising taxes, especially when you're looking at property tax in our area. I think with the situation we're in, largely due to the pandemic, you have to get a little creative in the budget. One of my other things I believe in is the decriminalization of marijuana. I mean, currently we have, thousands of low-level drug offenders in our jails, in our prisons, nonviolent offenders, in there for nothing less than those low-level marijuana offenses. And if we decriminalize marijuana, we release these people back into society. It's going to cut an unbelievable amount of money that we're paying to house these people and to feed them. So that's going to put money back into the economy. I think we need to look at after legalizing medical marijuana. I think it's might be a beneficial for our state to take a look at legalizing recreational marijuana. You can see the states that have done that, like Michigan and Illinois, have had a really windfall of money from that. Again, putting more money into that budget shortfall that we're going to be looking at. So I think if we get creative and look at different ways, we can do it without raising taxes and maybe without cutting spending as well.
The debate over police reform has played out 5 or 6 months, including in our front yard in Kenosha. The speaker's going to form a task force. The governor's got 9 bills. Republican Senator Van Wanggaard has got 7 or 8 bills. The Black Caucus has bills, and the Police Association. What specific policing reforms do you think should be enacted into law?
I think immediately you have to look at the banning of the chokeholds and banning of no knock. I think those two are take a big chunk out of the issues that we're looking at. I'm definitely all for looking at more maybe mental health training. I know a lot of the issues that arise are due to police calls to mental health issues, and maybe not all law enforcement is trained well in that area. I know in Wood County here, our Wood County Sheriff's Department is working with the Wood County Health to get more mental health training. So I think that's a big issue. And also people have mentioned maybe more schooling even for law enforcement personnel. Maybe, weed out some people that aren't top of the line by having more education.
Okay. You support the governor's plan for a People's Maps Commission to draw the next set of congressional and legislative district lines and then forward them to the legislature to be enacted into law?
Yes, definitely. I think the way it's set up right now, if you really take a look at our maps, I mean, we look at the map in my district here, I have neighbors and friends 2 blocks from me that can't vote for me because of how skewed the map is. And people have said, yeah, it's been that way on both sides. And that's true. No political party should have an advantage in the maps over the other, especially at the expense of people. So I think having the map commission is probably the fairest way. They put together fair maps, but the legislature still gets a chance to take a look at them and give their opinion on it. So I think I'm all in favor of the commission.
Wisconsin is a high property tax state, which is why for 20 years, school districts, local governments have lived with caps and limits on what they can levy in property taxes. If you're in the assembly voting on the next state budget, would you continue those caps and limits on property tax levies?
Yes, as I mentioned before, I believe our area is extremely high on property tax, and I don't want to do anything, and I'm sure most of my constituents would agree on that regard, to raise or to be able to raise those property taxes. So I would want to keep them.
Do you think cities, towns, villages need revenue options to reduce their reliance on the property taxes? Like City of Milwaukee, there's a bill. If Milwaukee passed a referendum, the city could levy a 0.5-cent sales tax. Is it time to give cities, towns, villages new revenue options?
Yes, I definitely think so. I think, a small sales tax increase is definitely a way to stop the reliance on the property taxes. There's so many different options. I know one of the ones I've been looking at, kind of talking with Wood County Health on it is, we have a high tax on alcohol here in the state. We have a high tax on tobacco, but we don't have much of a tax on vaping products. And so to look at maybe raising a tax on that to kind of take some of the burden off property tax might be another way to look at going.
Last year, the governor recommended raising our gas tax, which is 30.9 cents per gallon, to stabilize the way we pay the way we pay for highways and bridges. Would you consider voting to raise the gas tax?
I would. I've looked into. I know the federal gas tax hasn't been raised since 1993. I don't know. It's not the same here in the state, but I think, to kind of put a balance on our transportation costs, I think we would definitely need to look into raising gas tax, or I would also not be opposed to like user fees, or maybe even a small raise on registration fees.
If a school district or a local government plans a major public works project, should they have to give a preference to Wisconsin businesses?
I think it doesn't hurt to look at for Wisconsin business first. Obviously, you want the best quality, and many times that is looking at Wisconsin business. So I would think they should definitely get first look, and then after that you go for best quality.
Okay. Finally, you're going for an open seat. Do you want to highlight any differences between you and your opponent on November 3?
Sure. I think I'm the candidate who, like I said early on, my main concern is for the health and well-being of the people of this district. And, that may be where I'm pushing things that not everyone likes to do. Maybe, wearing masks isn't the most comfortable thing for everyone in the district. I don't enjoy wearing a mask, but I do it, and I do it to protect the health, not so much of myself, but of everyone around me. If I'm penalized for that view, so be it. But that is my view. I'm really, after looking out for the health and well-being of the people of this district.
Okay, thank you. Brian Giles of Marshfield is a Democratic candidate in the 69th Assembly District. The election is November 3. Brian, thank you for talking to WisconsinEye.
Well, thank you for allowing me to, Steve. Thanks.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.